I talk a lot on this show about being intentional, about using your breakup as a fresh start for a new beginning in life. And conscious uncoupling is both the practice and the course is one way to be very, very intentional about it. So, my friend Heather, who is a conscious uncoupling coach, is here to tell us all about it. Like I said, both the process and a little bit about the actual course, which I am looking forward to learning more about. Welcome to Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On, Heather.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's absolutely lovely to be here. We're doing some really good podcasts together,
Mhm.
making a bit of a difference. So I just love it.
Yes, I've been on Heather's podcast several times now, or actually, yeah, three times now, and they've been really great episodes, very well received. Do you want to maybe tell us just in a nutshell about the podcast so my listeners can go right over and give you a follow?
Oh, yes. It's called Revolutionize Your Love Life. And it's got all sorts about relationships, basically. Everything from calling in the one to conscious uncoupling to surviving narcissistic abuse, co-parenting with an ex that may not be so cooperative, loads and loads of stuff.
I've done an episode on family estrangement, surviving domestic violence, and on one on breakups. And we talked about conscious uncoupling even recently. Let's get into it. I have not introduced this topic to my listeners in the several years now that I've been doing Breakups, Broken Hearts, and Moving On. I am a really big advocate of the no contact rule. I became a breakup coach partially because a lot of my relationships were pretty bad, one even completely abusive. And I was compelled to just get out as quickly as possible. And I know a lot of people come to me and listen to the show because they are in pain over their breakups. So I've just always advocated more or less cut and run, create as much space as possible, get away from the person. And there are other ways of doing things. In fact, there are ways of doing things that can make the process easier for both of you. And conscious uncoupling is one of these outlooks and methods. So what is conscious uncoupling? Both perhaps the process, and I know you like to differentiate a little bit with the course that you teach. So yeah,
Yeah.
give it to us.
Okay, so first of all, Conscious Uncoupling is a book written by Catherine Woodward Thomas that you can use to inform yourselves. It's really well written, and it's for people going through breakup. So it's written for public. It's not written for coaches or therapists. So that's really helpful. And from that, we use that as a workbook for conscious uncoupling coaching, which is also a training program that Catherine Woodward Thomas offers. And it's a step-by-step guide, like you say, to intentionally separating. Your intention can be, if the person has been dangerous to you in any way, can be no contact. But if, for instance, you've got children or ongoing other broader family commitments, or you run a business together, something like that, there's more work to be done on coming to a resolution together. Doesn't even need both of you to do the program. One of you doing it can make a difference.
Oh, okay.
So it's 5 steps. The first is, all the stuff you and I talked about in breakup brain is how to stay calm, how to get yourself calm and stabilized so you don't make any decisions from your breakup brain triggered, traumatized self. Brings you back to adulthood.
And we're going to go through each one of the steps in just a couple of minutes. And this will be new to me. Thank you so much. So do you differentiate very much between the process? A lot of people speak about the process of conscious or the ideology perhaps of conscious uncoupling. A lot of people, though not as much anymore, will be very aware of Gwyneth Paltrow using the term, which popularized it. Is that something that you differentiate between in your work at all?
Absolutely. I think there's a sort of mainstream idea of what conscious uncoupling
Okay.
is, and then there's a very specific thing that I do.
Right. Thank you so much. So, how did you become a conscious uncoupling coach? How did you decide to take this angle with your breakup coaching or your counseling?
Well, I was a psychotherapist
Mhm.
at that point for about 30 years. And I wanted to find something, well, it's my own journey really. I wanted to find something that would help me find a really healthy relationship. So I did Calling in the One, and then I did the Calling in the One coach training. And
Mhm.
that program worked for me. I called in my true love, Ian.
Mhm. And it's
And
for those who don't know, this is a very popular, very well respected book and workbook that you can use if you are really wanting to not so much manifest an amazing partner, if you are wanting to do the work to find the person who's quote unquote right for you and create a great relationship. This is a roadmap, so to speak, for doing so. And I have gone through it, but it was a long time ago. It's definitely not really how I see relationships for myself anymore. But I have had several female friends who have done it and who enjoyed the process and felt that it prepared them more than anything for a better relationship.
yes, and there's something that's common to both processes,
Mm-hmm.
which is the core piece of true you awakening. So the that you do is calling in yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
either way, either program. So
Beautiful.
once I'd done the calling in the one training, I wanted to do the conscious uncoupling training because if people are in a raw state and they come to calling in the one, they can't really make use of it. So the conscious uncoupling enables you to really process any breakup and divorce, to get clarity and end it with dignity and respect, and
Mm-hmm.
have, if you need to, a cooperative relationship going forwards.
Thank
Yeah,
you. And
and to grow, to grow in yourself.
yes, and that is why I am curious about exploring this more and having you tell my audience about it because it is so intentional. And I do believe all breakups are an opportunity to learn about yourself. And this is really one way to do that. Everyone scroll back up on the feed a little bit because I dropped an episode recently called How to Break Up with Someone. And I go over my 3 C's of breakups. And this is how to go about the process of ending, of severing ties in a way that minimizes the misery for both of you. So maybe go and use the 3 C's and then come and listen to this episode and figure out how to consciously move away from each other. And along those lines, a lot of the people in my audience come because they are in or just went through some sort of breakup that was not necessarily wanted, not necessarily amicable. They may be in a lot of pain because they've decided they had to get out of it and they're ending things or they're about to. A lot of people actually come to me before they break up. Or they are in pain because they really didn't want the breakup and the other person did. So you mentioned that conscious uncoupling can be used even by one of the parties. So, can you tell my audience about that? If they are really upset over the breakup, it's not as though there is a meeting of the minds and two people who want to very, very peacefully part ways. How can this work for you if you're really devastated over the breakup?
Once you've got to a position of stabilization in your emotional life, and that will come and go as things happen through the
Mhm.
breakup process or the divorce process.
Yep.
It's really important to have somebody in your corner who is not partisan, who will
Who is
be
not
there
what?
for partisan, doesn't take sides.
Mhm. Thank you.
Uh, yeah, it's an obscure word, you're right. Um, so that you don't get hooked into they're all bad, I'm all good, because that's another sort of triggered to an early state. So
Hmm.
the first pieces are really about stabilizing yourself and then seeing how you showed up for you in the relationship. You can't change the other person, but you can look at your 3%, even if the other person was an out and out mean spirited, nasty person. You can look at how come I chose them, how come I let them get away with that. Why did I stay?
Hmm.
These things are so painful and difficult, but it holds you through that. And we'll look back from there at the roots of where this came from, which is generally in early life, and the beliefs that you had about yourself. So that probably would be, I have to look after everybody else. They're more important than me. I have to earn the love that I get. I have to be really independent, otherwise nobody will want me, which really then implicitly trains whoever to treat you that way. If you're treating yourself that way, then they will too.
Yeah. One of my patterns is I wanted to be in a relationship so desperately because I was raised that it's pretty much the most important thing in your life is who you're married to and being married. And so that was one of my patterns, that I looked past things. Yeah, just because I wanted the relationship. I mean, things in my marriage, I look back and it's almost frightening, some of the things that I just continue to put up with year and year after year, because I just couldn't go through the breakup. I felt so proud of that marriage. I almost had kind of this egotistical inner narrative about the marriage. I was very aware of people, how they viewed us. And I just did not want to break up for anything. I mean, so much so that in the end, it imploded like I've hardly ever seen in a relationship before. And then also my tendency to go really quickly in relationships. Even after I left my abuser, my relationship after my divorce, I had to go back too. And I don't victim blame. I don't think nobody causes anybody to hurt you. It's just impossible. You cannot make someone abuse you. And at the same time, it was refreshing and empowering to realize that I moved so quickly in relationships that then I felt in over my head once things started going poorly. And so that was what caused me to slow down with men.
Yeah, and it's really important because I think when you've had emotional trauma early in life, there's a tendency to think that however you were treated then is what relationship is. So if you were slapped and spanked when you were little, that won't be too far out of the norm for you. If you were emotionally neglected, that won't be out of the norm for you. And both of those things, different ways, diminish you. And it's through rising up and taking care of yourself, being the parent that you didn't have, being your own marriage arranger going forwards, making sure that you really do your due diligence, see how the person affects your nervous system. If you think that caring for somebody is anxiety, no. If your body's getting anxious, that's fear.
Or anxious, maybe in the beginning stages of a relationship, like, when am I going to hear from them? Are we together? What do they feel about me? That's not necessarily just the butterflies talking. No. That is signals that something is off if you don't feel calm. If somebody is going through a bad breakup, either they are really sick of the person and trying to get out, or they've been quote unquote dumped. So you're saying you absolutely can go get the book, go through the workbook without engaging the other person.
You absolutely can.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. And then engaging the other person is an option. So can you really briefly, before we go through the steps, I mean, maybe either what are the differences, or how and under what circumstances, other than having kids, if that's okay, would a couple decide or go about choosing to do this together? Because for me, that I help people go through peaceful breakups, but to go through the process of this with someone I'm trying to separate from sounds painful, to be honest.
Yes. How it works if you do it together is that you each see the coach on your own, and you do the first 3 steps separately.
Okay.
So you both go into your own history and your own understanding, and that gives you the clarity of how your 2 sets of early relationship patterning click together. Okay. And sometimes people recouple at that point with the clarity that they get. They say, so we haven't been communicating. I didn't know that meant this when you did that. I assumed from my background it meant this. You assumed it meant that. We haven't really understood each other. So that can happen. But I think there's a sort of respect that comes from doing that work. The fourth step is actually the clearing the air. And if you've done the work together, you can have a session together. And there's a very sort of structured process to that, which is looking at amends to how the other person's behavior affected you and what you understood from that, and how your behavior affected them and what they understood from that. And going forwards, how you make amends to yourself, for if you let things happen that weren't good for you, and how you make amends to them so that there's some dignity and respect going forwards. So this needs both people to be very conscious.
Okay, so as we go through each of the 5 steps, maybe as we go along, you don't mind me maybe interjecting to ask maybe how it would be different between someone doing it individually and as a couple. And so let's get into it. There are 5 steps to the process of conscious uncoupling per the workbook. And Heather is going to walk us through each of these. And I'm going to, ask some questions along the way. So what is step 1 to conscious uncoupling?
This is really stabilizing yourself emotionally. It's really tuning into yourself, what you feel, what you need, what support you want, gathering people around you who will be supportive of you, like not taking sides, but, going for that intention that you have, supporting you with that intention. And it's getting clear on the intention. So whether you want to have anything to do with your ex going forwards or not. And if you do have to because you've got children, what do you want that to look like? How do you want to feel?
This is awesome. And one of my 3 C's in breakups, it's confidence, clarity, and conciseness. And it is really important to know what you are actually asking for in your breakup. Staying friends, taking a break, having no contact, talking in a few months, co-parenting under what circumstances. And that's really for you to get clear about so you can be confident about the rest of the process. So thank you. Stabilizing and getting clear.
And you want to get a vision of what that will be like. So we do some real good guided meditation to get clear on that and how you want to feel. So you imagine who you are at the end of it and how you're feeling, how you're relating to yourself, how you're relating to your ex, and how you're living in the world, how you're looking after your children. You get really clear on what's happening and how you want to feel. So then, when you're making any decisions, is this taking me closer to feeling like that? Or am I reacting from an older self? The past self that got into this mess in the first place, sort of inverted commas. You want to be from your most grown-up self. And sometimes when you're visualizing in the future, it's more than you are now. It's like your higher self, your most developed self. And having a picture of that's really, really good because you can ask her things. What would you do in this situation?
Though, when you're in kind of the pain of a breakup, to think about how can I be my highest self? Because like I talk about on the show a lot, a breakup brings out the worst in everyone. And that is, one reason, for instance, that so many people will say that their ex is a narcissist because they showed these really bad tendencies and they showed the worst side of themselves when they were going through the breakup with you. And that is actually what leads a lot of people to say that their ex is a narcissist because of how they acted when they were splitting up. And so I can imagine this is challenging for people who are angry or in shock or something.
Yeah. There's room for expressing all of that. And I think expressing and having that held and understood and put in the context of the relationship and where it comes from, where your feelings come from, where are the repeating patterns, it does give you a higher self. It does give you a clearer self. It's quite amazing. It sounds like a miracle, and in some ways it is, to watch it every time. When the lights come on with people, oh God, this is how I've been treating myself. I waited for 10 years for him to have children with me, and he never really wanted to.
Yeah.
Why did I waste all those years trying to persuade him and manipulate him into it? Why didn't I just say, oh, he doesn't want children and leave?
Yep. Yeah, thank you. And I think also there's a certain mindset or a certain type of person who's coming into this process who may also be more prone to being able to set aside their emotions so that they can self-reflect.
Um, no,
I love it. Okay.
they don't set their emotions aside.
Oh,
There's
okay.
room, there's room for them to be expressed. If you set your emotions aside, that's self-denial.
Okay.
It's not self-awareness. So you learn how to look after your emotional self, but
Mhm.
not react from it. How to let
Oh,
yourself calm
wonderful way
down.
to put it.
Because
Okay.
if you're in highly charged feelings, you're likely to feel, I'm absolutely right, they're absolutely wrong. That's no place to take a decision from. It's no place to get a lawyer from either.
Mm.
What you need to do is wait for that part of you to calm down, understand. So, what age are they? Was that you reacting to your sibling? Was that you arguing with your mother? Was that you getting bullied at school? You know, where was the pattern? And you look, do I really want to respond as if I'm six? No, not really. That's going to cost me a lot in lawyers' fees if I do that. No. What I want is to look after my 6 year old and say, look, I'm in charge now. That isn't going to happen again. You know, I'm going to choose who we let get into our inner circle now. And I'm going to recognize any red flags. And I'm going to be honest and truthful and draw boundaries. Quite often things have gone wrong because there haven't been good boundaries or there hasn't been truth told and connection has been lost. So the first thing we're doing in sort of step two really is creating real connection with the self,
Okay.
real honesty with the self, real honesty about your feelings, real honesty about your needs, real honesty about your behavior. How have you contributed? It's not self blame. It's that 3% responsibility. What could
Right.
I have
Okay.
done differently?
Hmm.
If I'd spoken up then, something might have been different. If I'd refused to do that, something might have been different. If I'd asserted myself, something might have been different. Or,
Communicated
yeah,
maybe
yeah,
differently or at all.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And, you know, what have my choices been? Those are
Mm,
the kind of things to ask. You
yeah.
know, have I chosen to let myself be drained?
Yeah. Maybe what attracted me to this person? What did I,
Yeah,
what did I find exciting about them? Or what did I
yeah.
find repellent that I pushed aside?
Overlooked.
Mm,
Yeah, and quite often we are attracted to people, especially if there's lots of chemistry to begin with. We're attracted to people who mirror our early attachment
right.
styles.
Hmm.
They create the jigsaw that fits with us, you know.
Hmm.
And
And
then,
and
you know,
figuring this out, everyone, can change your life. And it sounds sad in a way, but it can also be incredibly empowering. It has been for me. So we have
yes.
stabilizing, getting clear, the second step, connection with the self. What are we doing for the third step? And also, if you don't mind, what type of time frame are we looking for as far as going through the
Well,
5 steps?
some people do it like week by week. I
Okay.
don't like to do that. I like to give time to process and examine trauma, process that, because I think it's more like growing a tree than building a wall. You know, you want to grow into yourself solidly. You don't just want to say, oh, I can do this, I can do that, and do it intellectually. Learning how to care for your feelings means being in your body and allowing yourself to feel and to have the strength of emotional containment for yourself, you know, really be there for yourself. If you've never had that, that's quite a thing to grow.
Mhm. Thank you.
So I like to take at least 12 sessions to do it. Well, people can choose as well. If they want to do it, you know, fortnightly, they can do that.
Okay.
And some people, if they need a lot of emotional stabilization at the front, might have 2 sessions a week for a little while till they feel calmer. You know,
Mhm.
my role is to stand in for the higher self until they can be that themselves. So I model containment, I model respect, I
Mhm.
model reliability to the best that I can. You know, um, so step three is looking really deeply at where these patterns came from. How come I sold myself out? What was the earliest in my life that I did that? And why did I do that? And what was I thinking? what did I make that mean about me? That I am not good enough, or I'm never chosen, so I better manage. So let me give you an example. I'll use me. As a small child, I was in hospital and plaster for quite a while with my dislocated hip. So I was put into hospital, and I didn't understand as a 1, 2 year old that I was
Wow.
put into hospital because I had needs. I thought I'd just been abandoned, and that I had the sense that real family life was elsewhere, wherever my mum and dad and my sister were, and I was cut off. So I learned I am alone. I also learned to wait to be chosen. The next nurse that came to me, I would cling on to. In those days, they didn't actually give you a sort of key nurse, so you couldn't develop a relationship with one person and have security. So I learned insecurity and just letting the next person pick me up. So you look at this in adult relationships. This is a blueprint that got set in play. Not to have any expectations of being looked after, to be super independent, not have any needs, and just wait to be chosen, because essentially I'm passive. I can't get up and walk around and choose. I can't assert my feelings and needs. I just wait for somebody to tell me, oh, he'll be really good for you. That actually happened to me with one boyfriend that I was with. He said, I don't think I'm the right one for you, but I think you should try that one. So I tried that one.
Wow.
We're talking 17, 18 here, but
Gotcha. Yeah.
nonetheless. Yeah. So the patterns that can be there, we look at, I'll name a few. I'm alone. I'm not good enough. I'm not important. I'm not valuable. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve. I'm not safe. That's a really important one. I don't matter. I don't belong. You get that, you catch the drift of them. There's lots of them, lots of beliefs that we come to.
Yes.
So we look at all of those and then we graduate from them. There's a process called the True You Awakening process.
Okay.
And we come to what's really true. So from that higher self in you, you feel those old beliefs embodied, but you care for the younger you. So I would go back to my little self in the hospital and say, and actually, maybe even hold myself and say, it's okay, you're not alone. I'm with you now. I've got you now. You don't have to be on guard. You don't have to grab who comes, because I've got you now. You're safe with me. Life happens where we are.
And maybe looking back also at maybe formative relationships, or for instance, a lot of my beliefs came from just my marriage. I got married really, really young. It wasn't a good relationship. He wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. And I was always, after that, very scared to ask men for various types of help or support, or others for that matter. I remember multiple times in our marriage, I asked him to come and help me change my tire one time. I'm like 25 years old, had not been taught that growing up. Seems like a normal thing to ask your husband to help you with. Well, he absolutely railed on me for that for almost the rest of our marriage. He would bring up that I couldn't even change my own tire. And when we would have, fights, he would throw it in my face. Even at the time when he did it, like several days later, he's saying how embarrassed he was that he had to tell his boss that he needed to go and help his girlfriend at the time change her tire. And I developed such a fear of asking for help, like severe, like, or even maybe it's speaking emotional needs, speaking about certain things. Like I didn't want to tell my recent partner about like my financial difficulties or ask for help, because I had realized that I had been so shamed for it. So it's
and that's exactly it, shamed.
Oh yeah, big time. Like even years later, he was still throwing it in my face.
For me, it's really important we look at guilt and shame. Guilt is something that you might have done that, it might not have been a good thing to do, but it was just a thing you did, where about who you are,
Shame
what you
is
are,
about
how you are. that's more difficult to make amends to
From a
yourself, because
sense
you
of guilt or a sense of shame?
shame, shame, guilt. You can do something different, but if you're in shame, then you can't make amends so easily. You really have to do a lot of work to get out of shame and really validate yourself.
And this is part of the graduating process?
Yeah.
Mhm. All right. So
Yeah.
these first three steps, stabilization, getting clear, connection with the self, looking at patterns and graduating from them. These are the three steps that everyone does on their own, regardless if
Yeah.
they're going to be going through the rest of the process with their partner or not. So these are the first three solo steps. What
Mm.
are the next two?
So it's step 4 that people can more likely do together. So you're
Okay.
clearing the air, explaining and understanding.
Makes sense. Okay.
Uh, and also, looking at some of those core beliefs, people can do that on their own. Sometimes they just meet up and have a conversation about it. They can do it in a guided way with coaches, which is really lovely to witness.
Mhm.
And by that time, if people really are conscious, they're much softer with each other. They're much more understanding. It's not about loss of trust and the desire to control when you can't trust. It's actually, oh God, I see how we screwed up our trust. I see how we both tried to take control in order to feel safe. There's more of a meeting of minds at that point. Not always, but there's more
I can
likely to
imagine.
be. Yeah,
What if the other
absolutely.
person is open to maybe hearing all the clearing of the air, but not really participating in it? I mean, so for instance, would you encourage somebody to say, ask their ex to sit down so that they can say everything that they've learned, without the other partner reciprocating? Does that
They
make
can
sense?
choose. They can choose to do that.
Okay.
And really have a caveat there that if the other person isn't going to speak, isn't going to get a chance to speak, then there must be no shaming or blaming.
Okay, good, great caveat. Thanks for mentioning that. Uh-huh. That
It's
makes
about it's
sense.
about making amends and understanding,
Okay.
fostering understanding. And if the other person doesn't want to speak, that's up to them. But I'd be a bit careful about that somehow.
Hmm.
Um, for two reasons. One, if they were being actively silenced, so it could be a negative thing against them. Or two, if they're choosing not to engage in that, have they really got much from the process? If they're doing it and they don't want to engage with that bit, then they may not really be using the process. If they're unaware of the process and they're just,
Right.
yeah, they can be part of it. I don't think I would necessarily facilitate that because I would not know them. But if the other person is not safe to be with or doesn't want to engage in the process, then you can choose to do it in a soul to soul meditation
Yeah.
and an uncording process. So
Which I
you
talk
can
about in my
set,
coaching and on the show. That's brilliant. Okay,
yeah,
and can you tell people what a cord cutting is?
yes, you look at it's a process. You close your eyes, you ask for the wisest guidance in you to come and support you, and you ask the other person to metaphorically be in the room with you. If they're dangerous, you put a force field of strong light around you to keep their energy out of yours. But you look at where you're connected, what they pull on you for, and what you might pull on them for. And the chords can be, it can be a meeting of minds that you fought in your heads. So there could be a chord between your foreheads. Or you could feel like they pulled with their heart on your gut, and it can be as thin as a piece of string or as big as a fire hose. And you can work out and really name what the pulling was. Was it manipulative behavior to always drain you and make you less capable of asserting your own feelings and needs?
Mhm.
Or was it sort of bullying you or just holding on to you when you said you don't want to be held on to. I mean, if it's at the base of you, if you think about the different chakras, if it's at the base of you, were they trying to take the ground from under you, to take your very life force from you, your stability from you?
Mm-hmm.
Or were you taking theirs? It can go both ways, and it's a really good thing to consider. It helps you get clear. And in the soul to soul, you ask them to see you as you are now, not as you used to be. You ask them to see you as you are now and to acknowledge you and recognize you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't, but you ask that. If they don't, if they won't, in the imaginative, then that's really good information to you that they're not safe, or you don't feel safe enough in your strength to be with them, to have that conversation.
Yep, there's people that you can work with to go through cord cutting. Heather's one of them. I've hired a hypnotherapist to do it before. You can do it on your own. I suggest a facilitator, but there are some really, really great tracks on Insight Timer, for instance, if you want to get started there, just so everyone knows, these are free resources. And something that I work with a lot of my clients on is writing letters to their ex that they don't send, but that allows them to really release a lot of what's going on inside. So possibly you can do this with your ex/partner. And I think what Heather and I are both saying is that you should be emboldened and empowered to also do this on your own, if that's what's going to be the most effective or practical.
Yeah. And part of the amends,
everyone's going to want to go through this with someone they're trying to break up with, sadly.
No.
And anybody listening who is feeling inspired by this, like, definitely go for it. Don't wait for anyone to start your healing journey.
Yeah. I want to say part of the amends can be writing a letter to yourself to apologize.
Beautiful. Oh, I like that.
For all the ways you might have let yourself down, so that you can really name those so you don't do it again. Or you can catch yourself when you're falling into that pattern so you don't do it again.
Oh, yeah. That is wonderful. That's becoming a new practice in my coaching. Okay, if you do this quote unquote properly, you could be having the biggest sigh of relief you've ever had when this is done. What is the final step, Heather?
Well, there's another piece, which is looking at what the old agreements between you were.
Oh, okay.
So your old agreements might be, particularly if you're married, having merged bank accounts, living together. It can be as simple as looking at whether you share food, and front doors. The new agreement could be, actually, you don't come into my house and go and open my fridge like you would have done before.
I want to definitely say, especially for people listening who co-parent, this is actually a very healthy, reasonable boundary that may make one of the biggest differences in your ability to co-parent with someone who you have decided you would not want to have in your life otherwise. Setting the boundary that you won't even come into my space when we're doing the drop-offs or something. And, expressing the boundary in a mature, communicative manner. I will say, a lot of people ask me, how do I co-parent? And how do I have no contact if they're my co-parent? And clearly you'll have some level of contact, but not allowing them inside of your home. That's actually a really great boundary for both of you to set, because actually that is intentional and elevated, especially, like I said, if you communicate it in a certain way. It doesn't have to be nasty. This is a new agreement, and that is all.
And that's lovely to have a new agreement. And there's also a conscious uncoupling ceremony you can do, which is unmarrying, where you name what your old agreements were that you are now letting go, and you name what the new ones are. It's really helpful.
Other than having children together, can you just, for for my listeners who don't co-parent, can you just give maybe two more examples of some other agreements that you need to look at during this process?
I think, stuff like money,
Okay.
particularly if that's being negotiated legally.
Mm-hmm.
You make an agreement that one person will give somebody else some money, or that from now on our finances are separate.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Think about all of the things that you say in a wedding ceremony and unsay them.
Mm-hmm. Or maybe over the
And
course of moving in together and merging lives. Mm. Because a
absolutely
lot of people
separating
aren't
them
getting
out.
married these days, but still
No, they
going
just
through
get a mortgage instead.
I cannot tell you how many times I'm telling people do not sign anything for the first year. I know you're in love, but you will thank me later. I don't care if you're still together. Do not sign any papers. But people
No,
do. And so that's an example of an agreement. And then
yeah,
as you're talking, perhaps more than any of the other steps, how do you do this if the other person is not necessarily involved in the conscious uncoupling process, but you know this is the best way for you? You are getting a lot out of it. You just come up with the agreements that you had with your partner and make new agreements with yourself.
absolutely. They're your
Okay.
boundaries.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They're your new
And they
boundaries.
have to be expressed in one way or another to the person you're breaking
They
up
do.
with. Mm-hmm.
They
But I
do.
guess it's a matter of how you are going to do that with someone who you're not interacting with,
Yes.
at least not
If
in a
if
conscious manner, because a lot of people will be interacting, but
mm,
not like that, not from both their higher selves.
no, and there's a lot in my podcast, which is about setting boundaries with people who are narcissistic. And like you say, when we're breaking up, sometimes the best and most wholesome of people can behave in bad ways.
Oh yeah,
So,
I've done
so
it.
it's
I told my F or told my F. My last relationship ended kind of in a fight, which I'm sorry, I am open about public. Like I will say this publicly. Yeah, that is what happened. We had a big fight and we decided to break up. I'm a human
mm,
being, and no,
mm,
I told him to F off in the middle of the fight. And I don't know if I've ever said that to anyone before. But
mm,
yeah, I was heightened. And like I said, it's not how I act day to day at all. It was not how I acted in the relationship
mm.
one bit. But yeah, in the heat of the moment, I said something that came from a hurt place in me. And I healed though from the most elevated part of myself. I mean, I kind of woke up the next morning and said, okay, well, that happened. I am a breakup coach. I'm a very, very, very conscious person. So what's next? Like how am I going to get through this? But yeah,
Absolutely. Make amends to yourself to never get in a situation where you feel so in fight and flight that you would say that.
oh yeah, no, for sure. And that's also why I've spoken about it publicly multiple times that I had said that because I want people to know that it's really possible. I mean, breakups wound the deepest parts of you and they wound the most insecure parts of you that you don't even want to admit to yourself. And then in the heat of the moment, you're finding that part of you being not only broken wide open, but having gasoline poured on it. It's painful.
It is. It really, really is. Yeah, it's
And then you can
explosive.
turn around and use some of these tools and steps that Heather's telling us about to forgive that part of yourself, possibly ask for forgiveness from the other person, and
Mm,
start to learn about yourself and move forward in actually a really positive way.
yes. And let's go into your case, but in the personal piece of it, just how much had you been tolerating that's what came out? You
Yeah,
you reached the end of the line. And
my
I
rope,
think that,
like it was fizzling very, very quickly. The last maybe 3 weeks or so had just
yeah,
been, I'd felt so neglected and frustrated and confused. And then
yeah.
everything kind of came out in this one fight, including, I'm just going to say it, him bringing up a bunch of things from like the last 6 months or year that he had never one time voiced and just kind of, throwing everything in my face. Like, what about this? What about this? What about this? And yeah, not only was I about to the end of my rope anyways, But then to just have all these things thrown in my face that I had no idea he was upset about, yeah, a little bit of me
Yeah,
cracked.
yeah, understandably. And I think it's also really important to acknowledge that mind reading isn't a reliable relationship skill.
Okay, go on.
Well, sometimes we think that because we're feeling something strongly, it must be obvious to the other person.
Ugh,
It's got to be voiced. Otherwise, how could you know? You couldn't make
I
amends
was
for any
completely
of those things.
shocked at some of the
Yeah,
things that I wouldn't have ever imagined anyone being upset over.
yeah,
Yeah, and I mean, so now anybody out there who's, like I said, getting turned on by this conscious approach to relationships and breakups, I will say my current partner and I, we do this whole, weekly check-in. What is going on for you? Is there anything that you have gratitude for from the last week? Is there anything that came up for you, and or something you're holding on to? Is there something that maybe bothered you? We're polyamorous, and so got to really be like as conscious as
good. Yeah,
possible.
good boundaries. Yeah,
And one of kind of like our rules, so to speak, which we are really good at, is like these check-ins. This is your opportunity. If you have a grievance, or if you haven't aired something, if you haven't talked about something, this is your time to do it. We don't like let resentments grow because we don't bring it up. It's like if you don't bring it up, you have weekly, daily chances to talk about something that the other person did that you didn't like. So you kind of lose the right almost to then bring it up months from now, and and let the
absolutely,
resentment
absolutely.
build, because there's no excuse to let the resentment build. We're coming here completely open, wanting to hear from each other. So if you don't take that chance to bring it up, you don't get to throw it in the person's face or let
No,
our
absolutely,
relationship suffer because you're holding on to something.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, and that's part of his 3% or 20% or 50% or 90% responsibility. Yeah.
Yeah.
How could you possibly take care of any of the things that he was raising if he didn't tell you?
Yeah, no. And seriously, and these were things too that could have been sorted, but the relationship came to an end. I was hurt, especially in the moment. And then I did a lot of these things. We did not stay in touch, and I'm also owning that. Didn't I didn't want to. But I did every single thing that I preach and that I talk about on the podcast. And it helped. I mean, I'm just gonna say I know what I'm talking about. And so
Yeah,
does Heather. This is fascinating. So you work with people all around the world virtually to go through this process, either with or without the other person.
yeah,
Yeah, go and engage Heather. Go and chat with her about how this might impact your, not just your breakup and your healing journey, but really the rest of your life and all of your future relationships.
absolutely. This is post-traumatic growth. It really wakes you up. It really wakes you
It's
up.
traumatic
And
growth.
you won't have a relationship the same again if you do this process. You'll grow through it. You're different. You'll be more grown up. You'll be more mature. You won't be signing things in the first 6 months because you'll be able to spot love bombing a mile off. It's that sort of thing.
Hmm. Which actually, maybe that could be our next episode, love bombing. I haven't talked about that on Breakup, Broken Hearts, and Moving On in a while, and I think we both know a bit about it. Heather, thank you so much, not just for coming on. She had a very, very busy week, everyone, and a busy day. And she's so making time on a Friday to come on and talk to us about this process. But also thank you for doing.
Janice, it's because I love and respect what
Mhm.
you're doing.
Thank you
You're
so
needed
much.
in the world. We both are in our different ways.
Well, and that was
It's
going to be
really
the other thing
important.
I thanked you for, is for providing this to people and providing this type of support to people. Your breakup does not have to break you, it can make you, and there are people out there to support you in doing so. Go to my website. You can get a free intro call with me / a free first session, really is what it It is. And you can get in touch with Heather as well. She's very easy to get in touch with and very accessible, if that's the right word. So if you're
Mhm.
curious about this, go and ask her more about what it looks like to work with her over the 12 weeks. Is that what you said?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It can be longer. We can pace it how you want it to be.
Okay, to work with her to go through this process. Before we end, what words of support would you give to someone who is in the early days of a breakup?
Really be kind to yourself. Get the support of your friends, not the ones who take sides, but the ones who really just love you and support you. You don't want the ones who are going to be bitter on your behalf. If you've got somebody who's behaved very, very badly and really hurt you and, is egregious in their behavior, that's okay. But
Yeah.
if you're, let's not make somebody who you've loved and been loved by into a bad person during this process. And don't get lawyered up too quickly. Really
Okay.
do, if you're married, really do your research very carefully about what lawyers you choose. Look for a collaborative divorce lawyer, particularly if you've got children, so you don't get your kids in a mess. So they repeat this pattern.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you. So we've got some practical tips right there. And I'm also, if you are in the early days of a breakup, and if you push play today because you were kind of looking for what's next and how to move forward, I'm, yeah, just sending you so much strength. And I like to mention this often that if you came to my podcast at all, if you push play on any of the episodes, that means that you've already shown your capacity for looking after yourself and your intention to seek out support and to heal from this because you're able to go out and look for resources and be proactive about it. So you're going to be okay. You've done at least a couple things right. You've taken the first steps coming out and getting information. And I'm sending you so much strength for the week ahead and for your healing journey. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you very much.